Hi guys, my name is Lucia and today I'm going to be doing a video all about makeup palettes that inspire me, specifically eyeshadow palettes. When I started my Make Up Your Mind series, I had a lot of people saying, okay, we get that a lot of stuff on the market doesn't inspire you, but what does inspire you? What kind of stuff do you really want to see? I also talk about color story a lot on my channel, and I think some people are confused as to what I mean by that because I often say I really want an eyeshadow that has a color story. And what I mean by that is I really like to see where the inspiration behind the eyeshadows come from, where the inspiration for the colors comes from and the layout. And a lot of the palettes I'm going to show you today have that inspiration, and I will be showing you details of why that is a color story and why that inspires me. Now, I will also say I haven't tested out every single palette that I'm going to be talking about. I like to keep my makeup collection rather minimal, and I don't like to bring in a lot of stuff that I know I have duplicates of. So some of the palettes I'm going to talk about I think are beautiful, and I would love to own them if I didn't already have things like them, but everything in this video totally inspires me. Not many of these palettes are things I have never spoken about on my channel. I find it kind of hard to find eyeshadow palettes that really do inspire me, but these are the ones that do, and let's just get right on into it. The first palette I want to talk about with an amazing color story that really inspires me is the Coastal Scents Jungle Roar palette. This is what the packaging looks like, and then when you open it up, it has the same picture and it has these colors. And you can just so clearly see why every single one of these shadows is in this palette. You can see, okay, so this is the story we're looking at, this is the artwork, and then these are the colors that you pull from that. And I absolutely love that. In terms of quality, I will say these are not the best quality shadows. ColourPop is definitely much better than Coastal Scents, and I have tried the Jolie Colibri palette, which was a similar palette to this, but it was a bird and it had blue and pink, and that was awful. I don't recommend any of the other ones. I have only tried that one. I do recommend this. The quality, as I said, it's not amazing, but it is workable. I was able to create a lot of really cool looks with this. I mean, for the most part, these shadows are super unique. The top row you can find in other palettes, but these bottom two rows, especially this bottom row with the dark green and the gray and this olivey green, and it's a shimmer and this teal, it's really something special, and I love to see, okay, so what am I going to do for this look? Oh, well, I could do a look inspired by the leaves, or I could do a look inspired by the jaguar's eyes. It's that type of thing that really makes me excited to do colorful looks. Guys, I forgot to mention this palette was sent to me by Coastal Scents, but this video is not sponsored in any way. These are all my honest opinions on palettes that I really like. Next is from Misha Lu, and this is the Witchcraft palette. Now, this was sent to me along with the other two palettes that they have. They also have the Queen Bee and the Fawn palette, and all of their palettes really do have a color story that comes from the artwork, but the reason this one inspires me is because look at those colors. These are so beautiful. Now, there are a couple shadows that I haven't used yet, like this green duochrome. I have trouble figuring out how to use that, but the quality of these is really good. Some of the metallics are a bit crumbly. I actually just did a Get Ready With Me where I used this, so I will link that down below in case you would like to see how the eyeshadows perform. Just in general, the mattes are really nice. They blend very well. The metallics are very pigmented. I do wish there was just one lighter color. This is a light green, but it's not light enough to be a transition, and they have these two browny purples. I wish one of them was a little bit lighter, but you can pull for other palettes. This is definitely, in terms of color and color story, the far most unique palette I own in my collection. Some of the palettes I'm going to talk about that I don't own, I would buy if I didn't have this, but I find that this can be a dupe for them. I also did mention in my Get Ready With Me, but the shade Magic is a dupe for ColourPop Glass Bowl, so if you already have that shadow, you can easily dupe at least one shadow in this. Alright, let's talk about the Tarte April Fool's Joke, the Icy Betch palette. That has long come and gone, and while that was annoying that Tarte didn't come out with that, a lot of good things came from that. I have my Coastal Scents palette that I did. Forget these shadows, these are other things, but these blue and green shadows is my dupe for the Icy Betch palette. I do have a whole video on just these shadows, so I will link that down below, but I have seen a lot of people also do their own dupe of this, and also some brands did their own dupes. Sydney Grace came out with an eyeshadow bundle. They are single shadows that is supposed to dupe the Icy Betch palette. They are probably much better quality than these Coastal Scents one. These singles are like the palette that I mentioned from Coastal Scents. They're not the best quality. You can definitely use them and get looks, but I do think that Sydney Grace is probably better quality. I got these all for $1 each, and the Sydney Grace is, I believe, in the $50 range, which is why I opted for the cheaper option, but I have heard great things about that. And also the Bad Habit Atlantis palette is something that came out. I have also not tried that. I have mixed feelings about the Bad Habit shadows. I have a review of the Hush website. I will link that down below. I don't feel personally intrigued to try this palette, also because I do have my own dupe, but I have heard the YouTuber Andrea talk about the fact that she loves this palette. And in general, I just love that certain brands listen to us when we said we like that palette, we like the Icy Betch palette, and it's really, really cool that now we have these blue and green options, because I really think before that palette we really didn't have many aside from these singles that you could make your own, but it's nice to see that palette that does have a color story that someone put time into, and then you can either make your own from there, or now you do have options on the market for things to buy to dupe that palette. While we're on the subject of making your own palettes, the next palette that really inspires me is my Z palette, but not just my Z palette. It's the idea that making a palette that is customizable and your own is so easy nowadays. I also have a video on every shadow in this palette. I will link it down below, but I just love the fact that if you don't see a palette on the market that you love, you can create your own color story. This is what mine looks like. I have some purples over here, some oranges and pinks, and then some neutral colors, and I love that. I love that you could even tape a picture on the top of this that you wanted to make your own color story out of. I just love that there are so many more options now. At least if you don't see something that you want on the market, you could potentially make your own, and that's awesome. I'm also wearing this palette today in case you were wondering. I am wearing some of these more peachy pinky shadows. Now let's talk about some of the palettes that I don't own. The first being the new Ace Beauty bundle. I am so incredibly happy that they came out with this bundle. This purple eyeshadow palette is what the Norvina palette should have been. The pink one is super, super beautiful, and even the more neutral warm toned palette I think has a lot of unique earthy tones that I haven't seen before in a lot of these other orange palettes. The only palette I'm not crazy about is the rainbow palette, because I've said that I'm not into neon rainbow palettes, but it's just so amazing, first of all, to see really, really creative palettes come out, and second of all, this is an indie brand, and I love that we are getting further away from just the Sephora brands, and I was gonna say Ulta, but honestly, Ulta is swooping in a lot of indie brands to their website and even their stores. I saw Morphe in there the other day, and that was really weird because I had never seen a Morphe palette in person. These palettes are just so beautiful. I really wanted to buy them. I just can't justify it. My Z palette has a lot of those pinky shades. I do have a lot of those neutral shades, and I have purple shadows. So maybe down the line I will buy some of those palettes. For right now I'm not going to, but oh, they are so beautiful. Just came out recently is the Blush Tribe Hasina 2 palette. It was very hard for me to not buy this because of how much I support the color story behind it. It is this artwork on the front, and you can see exactly where each shadow came from, and it's not just this random assortment of purples, greens, and blues. It makes sense. It's cohesive, and that is so inspiring to me. Now, like I said, I have purples and greens and blues. I don't need it, but I love it. I love that this is something that is coming out. It makes me so inspired to work with color and have artwork inspire a look. And also, once again, I love that this is something that we are excited about as makeup lovers. This is a small indie brand, and it is coming to our attention that, hey, this is an awesome palette, and there's a lot of thought that goes into this. I think that one of the things that frustrates me the most about the same palettes that keep coming out is there's no thought into them. There's no love in that. It's just the same trend as everyone else is doing, but the palettes in this video, someone sat there and worked on these palettes and made a color story and put artwork with it, and that is inspiring to me because makeup is something that I use as a creative outlook, and when I see other people who have brands doing that with their products, that makes me want to buy it. Another palette I don't own but is super inspiring to me is the Carob Beauty Smoky Blue palette. I don't know when this came out, and I can't remember when I found it, but I was looking for a blue palette. Before I bought my Icy Betch Coastal Scents dupe palette, I was looking for a blue palette for the longest time, and to this day, this is the only palette that I know of that is completely blue, and it's big too. Now, I don't know anything about the quality of these shadows, and I don't really want to buy that because I have my own Coastal Scents blue shadows, but the fact that they have this palette, and this is the only blue palette out of every line that I could find. Also, please, if I am wrong, if you know of another completely blue palette, please let me know. But the trend now is the blue pop effect. It is so hard to find a palette that is just blue, and this looks beautiful. They have light to dark. It's not so much that there's a color story in this, it's just that they took a color and they ran with it. They said, you know what, there is blue missing from the market. There is no blue palette, let's make that. And I love to see that. The next two palettes take a bit of explanation because these palettes don't exist yet, but they're in the making. So these are from Unicorn Cosmetics, and the artwork on the packaging is from an artist called Curtis Rajkovic. I love his artwork. I discovered him through this brand, and I actually just made a video on two palettes that I created that I wish existed inspired by his artwork. I will link that down below. I did buy two of his prints in order to make that video, and I was really inspired initially by these posts from these brands because they say that they are making these palettes inspired by artwork. Now, the thing that confuses me is that this was months ago. I don't actually know if these palettes are going to happen. There has been no updates on them, but if they do happen, the fact that they have taken this artist and they incorporate his art into their makeup brushes, if you buy from this brand, you get his artwork on the inside of the box. That is amazing that they do that, but now they're going one step farther and they're actually taking an artist and putting his art on the cover. So this isn't just we made something that looks pretty like art and then we put it on the cover. This is actually supporting an amazing artist, and that is so exciting to me. I really hope these palettes actually happen. I will keep you guys updated if I hear anything, and also I really hope that the eyeshadows are not just orange boring eyeshadows like we've seen before. I hope that the palettes are as inspiring as the packaging. And last, for eyeshadows, we have something that you guys have all heard me talk about, and this is the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette. I love this palette so much. I got this around the holidays, back when it was limited edition. Just saying. But anyway, I love this palette. I honestly wish that they had done more with the outside packaging. I wish that there was even more to do with galaxy and the signs and color on this, but these are what these shadows look like. The galaxy earthy tones of this palette is so unique to me. I've really never seen anyone besides BH Cosmetics do palettes like that. They do have some other galaxy toned stuff that I don't feel the need to buy because I have this one, but I just love this palette. It just inspires me. I love the tones. I love that it is different. It's so metallic and the shadows are so good and pigmented. This one isn't necessarily about color story. This is just about the fact that the quality of this is great. I love the colors. It's affordable and it's just so simple. It's one of those things where you don't have to save up a lot to buy it. You don't have to work hard to make the shadows look good. You basically have everything you need. It's just easy, it's simple, and it's great. And that is it, guys. That is all for eyeshadow palettes that really inspire me. Let me know if you want me to do a video on makeup that inspires me, not just eyeshadow palettes. I really wanted to focus in on eyeshadow palettes that I think have a great color story or just that I think are really unique, but there are definitely things besides eyeshadow that inspire me about makeup, so let me know if you want to see that. Other than that, that is it for me. Please subscribe, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!